Side quests, storytelling, and getting old. Here are 6 reasons you never finish games and what you can do to fix it. The dreaded pile of shame. That collection of games you'll never get round to starting, let alone finishing. Everybody has one, even if, as in our case, it's a conceptual pile in our Steam library. It's a dark and terrible place, full of semi-finished shooters and games we'll never go back to because we already watched the endings on YouTube. But the reassuring news is that we're not alone. Research suggests as many as 9 out of 10 players don't finish the games they start. And in this world of overwhelming choice and endless sequels, that's hardly a surprise. In this video, we'll be looking at the reasons why we don't finish games and offering some practical solutions for anyone who wants to drastically reduce their pile of shame. And if you're wondering why it even matters, here's a little secret. Our brains like it when we complete stuff, something we've talked about in a previous video, and we're more likely to regret something we haven't done than we have done. So by completing all those games you started, you'll actually be making yourself happier. So with that in mind, why not refresh your Steam library, flex your keyboard fingers, and prepare for a workout? Here are 6 reasons you never finish games and what you could do to fix it. This isn't a universal one because games are obviously for people of all ages, but digital entertainment is a young medium, and this is the first time a generation of gamers has grown old alongside their hobby. The average age of a modern gamer is around 37, and it's hardly surprising that anyone around that age won't have exactly the same amount of free time as they did when they were 15. As we get older, we usually have more commitments, jobs, children, responsibility, leaving us less time to play games. And as that average age increases, the statistics showing us how many of us complete games are inevitably going to alter. The older we get, the less likely it is we'll have time to complete everything we start. But it's not just age. We have numerous other time-devouring distractions that simply didn't exist 20 years ago. Things like social media and constant access to digital technology. This ties into the types of games we're playing too, which we'll come back to in a bit. The truth is that many of us are still playing games, we're just more likely to count them as distractions rather than achievements. So the single biggest cause of failure to complete games is age. Well, we're all getting older and there's not a whole lot we can do to fix that. But on the plus side, just imagine how great our retirement is going to be. So we've established that we have less time to play games, but it's compounded by another problem. Games are getting longer and longer, and they're more packed with more distractions than ever before. There's a balance here. Many games that include a multiplayer element, such as Call of Duty or Battlefront 2, have shorter campaigns. While these might seem manageable on their own, it balances out because we play more online. Meanwhile, games such as The Witcher 3 and Assassin's Creed take longer than ever to complete because they're crammed with side quests that drag us away from the already huge main stories. And there's yet another element in play here: perfectionism, or to translate it to video game terms, completionism. Now that sounds like a contradiction, since this video is about completing games, but that consuming desire to pick up every herb and complete every quest can actually hold us back. We focus on all the tiny details at the expense of the big picture. And the next thing you know, we've given up and gone back to Overwatch. All these factors combine to reduce our chances of completing a game. If we're not being dragged away by an alluring side quest, we're spending hours in multiplayer instead. The short version is that the longer the game, the more likely it is that people will abandon it. But that doesn't mean you should uninstall all those 100-hour epics, it's more just a case of being selective, and that's something we'll talk about later on. The format and construction of games is also an issue. It's easy to sit down and binge an entire TV series in one evening because the episodes are shorter and storytelling in TV is designed to keep us engaged. It's all to do with pacing. US TV uses 5-act structure that keeps us coming back. Each section ends with an act out, usually some kind of mild cliffhanger, intended to hold our attention during a commercial break. But games are different. Stories in games are written and experienced differently. In film and TV, story is the blueprint. In games, with a few notable exceptions, the story is secondary to your enjoyment. And because we consume games at our own pace, in our own order, we lose the structure that holds our attention in other forms of media. Designers can't usually keep us engrossed with cliffhangers and 4th-act disasters if they don't know when we'll be discovering them. And we don't play games with an editor leaning over our shoulder, telling us we should have made that choice 6 hours ago for the story to be truly effective. Because of this, we naturally become less invested in the endings of games than we are with TV or with film. There are obvious exceptions to this. Portal, for example, crams a perfectly paced linear story into a short space of time. And the other option is to have a relatively short campaign in a game that you can play for hours, such as Skyrim. But there's a storytelling challenge here that goes beyond traditional game design, and it's one we're yet to fix. Our next entry is quite a nice problem to have. There are simply too many games to choose from. Now, over the last 2 decades, the rate of release and wide availability of games has changed how we play. Back in the 8 and 16-bit days, we had fewer games and more time. Getting a new game usually involved getting off your backside, going to the store, and spending a significant chunk of money. But now, a world of discount adventures is only ever a Steam sale away. This is a problem because our brains love new stuff. New ideas excite us more than old ones, and we're motivated by novelty. Conversely, the more time we spend on a project, the less likely we are to enjoy it. We get discouraged, making the lure of fresh distractions even more powerful. The good news is that this is a relatively easy one to fix, and all it takes is some willpower. We've got a list of suggestions at the end of this video. Okay, this is a big one, and it relates to the type of games we play. It's arguable that story-driven narrative games are on the decline. Take the pivot away from the structure of Amy Hennig's Star Wars game as a possible example, but it's deeper than that. These days we all play more drop-in drop-out games, whether they're online multiplayer games or mobile titles. Online multiplayer games are different because we never really complete them. Games like Overwatch and PUBG are designed so the prospect of playing them remains indefinitely attractive. This isn't a criticism, it just means they're good enough that repeat play is enthralling. And this entry is intrinsically linked to our earlier entry about age. This change in the way we play doesn't mean that companies are out to exploit us. Instead, it's an indication that we need drop-in, drop-out games to fit around our already hectic lives. But despite this, there's still something positive about finishing games. That's because completing stuff makes our brains happy, and we'll come back to exactly how you can achieve this at the end of the video. Let's finish with a positive one. Many games are so good that we simply don't want them to end. Some of us get to a point in a game where we're only a few missions away from the end, and we stop. Now, this is often because we're enjoying a game so much, or that it's been such a constant part of our lives, that we simply can't bear the thought of being without it. Finishing some games can feel more like a bereavement than it does an achievement. And while you can always play a game again, there's something special about experiencing the end of an epic quest for the first time. We're deliberately procrastinating so we can spend more time in the company of Geralt of Rivia or Commander Shepard, or dragging that Total War campaign out so we can enjoy that sense of achievement. So, we've established that finishing games is hard, but what can you do about it? Well, quite a lot as it turns out. While some of the things we've discussed aren't as easy to fix, others can be circumvented with a few organisational tricks. The first thing to do is take a personal survey and evaluate why you're not finishing games. If it's making you unhappy, change stuff. If not, carry on as you are. You can then go through your backlog of games, mark the ones where you feel like you've got your money's worth, and highlight the ones you still want to play. Make a master list of the games you want to complete and add them to a to-play list. You can even make custom Steam lists for this very purpose, hiding or uninstalling games that simply didn't make the cut. Once you've got your to-play list, be ruthless. Go through it and remove the games you're never going to try. Those titles that you bought on impulse in the Steam sale or because a friend recommended them. If you're serious about completing games, prioritise. Now might also be a good time to remove some of those multiplayer games. In this case, they're often just too much fun for their own good. Now the exception here is with co-op games. Having a friend encourage you to finish it can work a bit like having a gym buddy. But generally, linear games with short campaigns are the way to go. Organise your list starting with the games you want to play most, and resist the urge to buy any new games until you've made some progress with this. And no more pre-orders at all until you're done. Allow yourself some time to play these games that fits your schedule. Use your allotted time to work through the backlog, and remember that some progress is better than no progress at all. You can even use websites like howlongtobeat.com to plan your time efficiently, and choose games you can beat that align with your free time. And finally, when you finish a game, celebrate! Revel in your newfound completionism, announce your achievements to your friends, and consider joining an online community that celebrates this sort of thing. Or better yet, come back and comment on this video and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear all about your triumphs. So there you go, a list of reasons why we struggle to complete games, and some simple suggestions about how to solve them. Please hit the like button if any of this seemed familiar to you, and subscribe to Logitech G for more how-to features in the future. Thanks for watching, and let us know how you get on with your backlog.